Dorothy lived in the middle of the vast Kansas prairies with her Uncle Henry, a farmer, and Aunt Em, the farmer's wife. Their house was tiny, just one small room. The lumber to build it had been carried for many miles by wagon. Inside, there was a rusty cook stove, a cupboard, a table, a few chairs, and beds. Uncle Henry and Aunt Em slept in a big bed in one corner, and Dorothy had a little bed in another. There was no attic and no real cellar, just a small hole dug in the ground called a cyclone cellar. If one of those massive whirlwinds came, the kind that could crush any building, they would hide there. You reached it through a trapdoor in the floor, with a ladder leading down into the dark. When Dorothy stood in her doorway, all she could see was the great, gray prairie stretching in every direction. There wasn't a single tree or another house to break the flat landscape. The sun had baked the earth into a hard, gray mass full of little cracks. Even the grass wasn't green. The sun had scorched it to the same dull gray as everything else. The house itself, once painted, was now as blistered and washed out as its surroundings. Aunt Em had come to this place as a young, pretty wife, but the sun and wind had changed her too. Her eyes, once sparkling, were now a sober gray. The red had vanished from her cheeks and lips, leaving them gray as well. She was thin, gaunt, and never smiled anymore. When Dorothy, an orphan, first arrived, her laughter would startle Aunt Em so much she'd scream and clutch her heart. She still couldn't understand what the little girl found to laugh about. Uncle Henry never laughed either. He worked tirelessly from morning till night and seemed to have forgotten what joy felt like. He was also gray, from his long beard to his rough boots. He was stern, solemn, and hardly ever spoke. It was Toto who made Dorothy laugh and saved her from becoming as gray as everything around her. Toto was a little black dog with long, silky hair and small, twinkling black eyes. He played all day, and Dorothy played right along with him. She loved him dearly. Today, though, they weren't playing. Uncle Henry sat on the doorstep, looking anxiously at the sky, which was even grayer than usual. Dorothy stood in the doorway, holding Toto, and watched the sky too. Inside, Aunt Em was washing dishes. From the far north, they heard a low wail of wind. They could see the long grass bowing in waves before the coming storm. Then, a sharp whistle came from the south, and they saw the grass rippling from that direction too. Suddenly, Uncle Henry stood up. "There's a cyclone coming, Em," he shouted to his wife. "I'll go look after the stock." He ran towards the sheds. Aunt Em dropped her work and rushed to the door. One glance told her the danger was real and close. "Quick, Dorothy," she screamed. "Run for the cellar." But Toto, frightened, jumped from Dorothy's arms and hid under the bed. As Dorothy went to get him, Aunt Em threw open the trapdoor and scrambled down the ladder into the dark hole. Dorothy finally caught Toto and started to follow. But when she was halfway across the room, the wind let out a great shriek. The house shook so violently that she lost her balance and fell to the floor. And then, a strange thing happened. The house whirled around 2 or 3 times and began to rise slowly into the air. Dorothy felt like she was going up in a balloon. The winds from the north and south had met right where the house stood, making it the exact center of the cyclone. In the middle of a cyclone, the air is often still, but the immense pressure on all sides of the house lifted it higher and higher. It rose to the very top of the storm and was carried for miles as easily as a feather. It was very dark, and the wind howled horribly, but Dorothy found the ride was surprisingly smooth. After the first few spins, she felt like she was being gently rocked, like a baby in a cradle. Toto, however, did not like it one bit. He ran around the room, barking loudly, but Dorothy sat still on the floor, waiting to see what would happen next. At one point, Toto got too close to the open trapdoor and fell in. For a moment, Dorothy thought she'd lost him, but then she saw one of his ears sticking up through the hole. The strong air pressure was holding him up, preventing him from falling. She crawled over, grabbed him by the ear, and pulled him back into the room. She quickly shut the trapdoor to prevent any more accidents. Hour after hour passed. Dorothy's fear slowly faded, but she felt very lonely. The wind shrieked so loudly it almost made her deaf. At first, she worried the house would fall and be smashed to pieces, but as time went on and nothing terrible happened, she stopped worrying and decided to just wait and see what the future held. Finally, she crawled over the swaying floor to her bed and lay down. Toto followed and curled up beside her. Despite the rocking house and the wailing wind, Dorothy soon closed her eyes and fell fast asleep.